Notion was very busy in 2024. They were launching brand new features. They've improved the functionality of things like database automations and formulas. They've even given us little website tweaks that totally improve the user experience. So I have attempted to gather just about every single update that they released last year. I have, however, made the executive decision to leave off any updates that included or were specifically for developers, just because I don't feel like that's relevant to the majority of us. So we're gonna try to go through this as quickly as possible, as quickly as we can. Some items, because they're more major updates, I'll probably spend more time on, but otherwise I'm just gonna run through them quickly so that we're not here all day. Although I could talk about Notion all day. But if you're new here, my name is Kalyn, and obviously we like to nerd about all things Notion on this channel. I also talk about planning and productivity in general. So if those are the types of topics that you love chatting about, then I think you're gonna love this channel and the videos that I share. I would love to have you subscribe and make our internet relationship super official. So I'm gonna go through these updates not by chronological, so not by the date that they released them. I've attempted to organize them by type. Hopefully that will help keep us on track, but man, this is a really, really, really long list. So I may have gotten in over my head with this. Let's first start with all the new features. These ones are kind of the big ones that dropped in the last year. So starting with Notion Calendar, which dropped mid-January 2024. So kind of got us started right off the bat, a major launch. So this is a separate calendar app that was designed to connect your Google Calendar and then your databases in Notion into that app. So you could see like your tasks on your calendar, any other database, like maybe a content calendar on your calendar, etc. I'm saying calendar quite a lot. I did a whole deep dive into Notion Calendar and kind of my thoughts on it, because when they released it, it was mixed. It was a mixed bag. People really liked it, people didn't like it, and so I'll send you over to that video if you want to just see my thoughts on it, because I don't use Notion Calendar. I actually use Morgan Calendar. It has a lot of the features that I was hoping Notion Calendar would have, and they just don't, at least not yet. However, they did make some updates throughout the year, a couple things like adding an Android app, because originally it only launched with iOS, so Android users, you can now try it. It also updated their booking or scheduling link to where you could only schedule, like if someone wanted to schedule a meeting with you, you could only do it with one person, and now multiple people can book through your link. Morgan already had that functionality, so it is an update. It's worth mentioning. Still not like super impressed with Notion Calendar, and I will be sticking with Morgan. I'm really excited though for the rest of these updates. So the second major update was Notion websites. Now you could always publish a page to Notion and share that link with someone, but now you have extra functionality to where you could actually build a website on it. So access to SEO friendly, descriptions and titles. You can turn on Google Analytics. You can change up the favicons, add a website header on the top. So a lot of different things you can do to turn your Notion page into an actual website. I did this so I run a travel brand called Open Roading with my husband. It's about RV life. And I recently created a media kit that we're sharing with different brands and sponsors. And I did that all inside Notion. And I think it looks really nice and really cool. So I'm very excited for that update. I think it is going to take away the friction that a lot of people have in looking at like WordPress or Squarespace, and just have it be a little bit easier because they're used to using Notion. The next launch that I was really excited about was Notion Charts. So this is a completely new database view. If you are a free user of Notion, you get one chart to try out. If you're on the Plus plan, you have unlimited number of charts. And this is just another way to share or view your database information in something that's more visual, like a pie chart or a bar chart. So I currently only use this in one area of my workspace right now. It's on my reading hub. I have it tracking how many books I have read for the entire year, and then it is showing the different genres that I have read so that I can see that I've been really into psychological thrillers for 2024. I definitely want to find more places to use it in my workspace, but for now I'm really enjoying it in my reading hub. You can customize the different color palettes with it. I think it's a really great, exciting update because before we originally had to like use outside widgets to create charts from the data that we had in Notion, and it was just really clunky. It didn't work. I didn't love it. So now that Notion has charts, that just makes it even better. Notion Forms was another big update. So this one I am starting to use as well. So if you have ever created a Google form or maybe a form through Typeform or Tally, and you can integrate those with Notion, but now Notion has its own native form that you can create. It's just another page block. I actually have a button on our Open Roading Media Kit page where brands can contact us if they want to partner with us on that YouTube channel. So it automatically creates a database for you where all those form entries and submissions will automatically go into that database for you to reference. So I love this because now you don't have to like pay for an outside app. Like I think Tally is paid for, Google Forms is free, but it's so nice to be able to have it all in Notion. Like that's one of the major reasons why I moved to Notion. I know that's why a lot of you moved to Notion because it's all in one place. So to see Notion continue to add things that help us keep our workspace together is very thrilling. The other major update was Notion Marketplace. So this is more for creators. If you have templates that you've created and you want to share with people and sell them, now Notion Marketplace has its own platform and area for you to use that, so you don't have to use Gumroad or Shopify. You can do it right on Notion. They do take payments directly through Notion, so that's easy. You don't have to have a separate payment processor. They do, however, take a 10% fee. So that is a little bit higher than like what I'm paying on Shopify or what you would pay on Etsy or Gumroad. The next update is Notion Home, and I really want to love Notion Home. I will say it's very cool the way it's bringing your tasks and calendar and projects and things together on one page. I think the Notion homepage is an answer to the personal dashboard. So I have a whole video about my personal dashboard, give you a tour, what it looks like. And I think that is like people want to create that, but it is very overwhelming because there's a lot on there. And what Notion is trying to do is to give you that one home base where you can come in and you can see what you have to do for the day. Like they bring in your Notion calendar, they bring in your tasks, like I said. And the really unique thing is they also bring in tasks from multiple databases. So let's say you have a personal task list and then you freelance for someone else and they actually have their own task list where they're assigned your task database and they're assigning those to you. You can bring both of those together into your homepage. You just have to turn that database into an actual task database through like some customization options. But it's super easy, and it also has like recent pages that you've been to, maybe some trending or popular pages that they're trying to be smart and think that maybe you want to reference. So it is a really cool idea. I love that they have it. I just don't currently use it now, but that's not to say like I know other people absolutely love it. The other major update was an overhaul to Notion AI. So I think we had a little version, like a small version of AI in 2023, if I'm remembering correctly, and then in like mid 2024, they completely overhauled it. You can find Notion AI on the top right of your sidebar, on any Notion page on the bottom right, the little like icon that they have for it. You can also, while you're browsing like the internet on a different browser, you can use a shortcut. So I believe it's Command-Shift-J or Control-Shift-J on if you're on Windows, and you can open up Notion AI and ask it something. So it can do a lot of things. It can find information in your workspace when you've been building in Notion for a long time and you've lost information and you can't necessarily find it and you're like, wait, when did I have that meeting with so-and-so? Notion AI can find it for you. They also have some more like general knowledge. So they're tapping into, and this is one of the major updates for 2024, they're tapping into I'm not going to say it correctly, GPT-4 and Claude. So you can ask it pretty much everything and it will have an answer and it will cite its source for you. If you don't know what to ask, It will have prompts for you. It can also search any integrations or that you have connected to your Notion workspace. So like Slack, it can search Slack conversations. It can even search Google Drive, like if you have something in documents. So it's extremely, extremely powerful. You can also use it to like improve your writing, fix grammar and typos. I have done this where I'm like just not loving a couple paragraphs and I'm like, do you have any suggestions on how I could make this flow a little bit better? And it gives me some suggestions. Now we're gonna move on to Workspace updates, like as a whole. Like those were kind of the major launches that we had last year, but now we have some improvements to our workspace, starting with our sidebar. I actually went back to a previous video, one of the probably first videos that I filmed in Notion, just to see the differences between the sidebar then and the sidebar now. New page is probably the biggest update. So instead of the text new page, we have a little icon. So that's a lot cleaner. The Notion AI is more prominent. Settings and members has now moved to that toggle under your workspace name. That's where you can access it. Team Spaces is gone because that's a little bit further down the sidebar now. And then you have what's called inbox instead of updates. And they've also made some improvements to the inbox, so it's easier to manage if you have new comments coming in from a team, like on a certain page. It will now group those together in one thread, so it's a little bit more organized. The search feature is pretty much in the same location, but when you use it, they've made some improvements to it. They say that they made search 55% faster, which is very specific. It is pretty fast. I do think it is faster than it was before. You can access previous pages that you have there in case you wanted to like jump quickly into those. Of course, you can search anywhere in your workspace. You can also add search filters. So if it's bringing up too much information and it's not finding the correct information, maybe adding those filters would help. You can also reorder the sections on your sidebar. So originally you could just move the pages around on the sidebar. You could not reorder the sections. So like I don't reference the pages that I have shared with my husband Joseph as much. So I've moved them down lower at the bottom of the sidebar. I like that update. I like when we have more control over our workspace. In this workspace update section, we also have some tab updates. So I don't know if you know this, but you can create a tab on the top of your workspace just by clicking the little plus icon on the top left section. You can have quite a few tabs up there. You can also pin a tab. So I've pinned my personal dashboard tab, and that just shows a little icon and it always stays there so that you can always reference it, because that's the page that I'm on like all the time. But you can also have additional tabs. You can reorder the tabs that you want to, and you can hover over the different tabs to see what that is a preview of if you don't want to click on it quite yet. Moving on to database updates. So we have a lot of property updates to get through under database updates. They have made some changes here. There's a new customize menu in the database settings. So when you click those three dots, and you can turn it into a task database, which means it will show on your Notion homepage. It will also give you some options like, do you want to add subtasks to this? Do you want to add dependencies to this database? When it comes to URL properties, so they have given us an option to shorten messy URLs. If it really bothered you, if you had a really super long link in your database, you're going to be happy with this update. So you just toggle it on and it shortens the URL. Now, I personally don't love this update because I don't have like super long, messy links in my databases, and it shortens it to where it's like a light gray in the middle and you can't, I don't know. I don't prefer it, so I don't use it. I do like that they give us the option. Like they didn't just say, nope, we're shortening these and this is how we're treating links from now on. I like that they give you the option to toggle that on or off based on your preference. Now this update, I got really excited about when they added database buttons. So you already had buttons that you could add to your page, to your Notion page. But what you can do now is add a property that is a button, and you can make it do so many things. So I have an example of this on my personal dashboard page under my task list. I have a little arrow button. So that's the other cool thing you can do. You don't have to make the button say anything. You can just put like a little emoji in it and then say what you want it to do. And so I made a little arrow button that if I don't get to certain, or I know I'm not going to get to certain tasks, I can click that button and it will send it to the next day. So I have a formula in there that I have written, when I click this button, then please add another day to the due date. So there's lots of different like things you can do with database buttons. I probably will do a video in the future like just all about those, because I keep finding new ways to add them to my workspace, and I think it would give you guys some really cool ideas on how to use them. One of the updates they did in the list view specifically is the ability to move properties over to the left of the name. Now originally you couldn't. So when I like viewing my task list in a list view on my personal dashboard page, you can see it there, and it didn't have a checkbox like to the left of the name, which is where I really wanted the checkbox. It was all the way on the right side. So now we can move like as many properties as you want to the left of the name. It's a simple tweak. You can also wrap titles in a calendar view. So before, if you had a calendar of like events, or you wanted to see your tasks on a calendar, or you had a content calendar to see your content pieces on there, it would just cut off the title. Now you can actually wrap the view of the title so that if it's short enough, it will show in 2 lines. It's still cutting off much longer titles. I think they might be coming up with something to hopefully fix that in the future. We will see. It's not like a huge deal for me. This next database update is specifically for people who have teams, who work with others in their database. You can comment on specific properties now if you want to. I've never done that before. I've always just commented on the page. I did test this though. It doesn't look like it works for commenting on relation, roll-up, or formula properties. And so far, as I can see it, you can only do it in like the table view. So it's not something I have found necessary quite yet. Maybe I will in the future, I don't know, but it is an option. They did add some new formula functions. So we've got the mean, which is obviously the average, the median. Go look that up if you don't remember from math class what that means. And then the today function, which I am really grateful that they added this, because originally when we wanted something to take into account today, we had to use the now function, and now meant date and time. So before, when I would migrate my tasks, going back to the example of my personal task list where I was migrating a task to tomorrow, it would use now, and it would just send it to the next day and the exact time that I moved it, like to the next day plus the exact time. And I didn't love that, because usually it was at like 8 o'clock at night, and so I'm not doing my task tomorrow at 8 o'clock at night. So now with the today function, it just takes into account the date, don't have to worry about the time at all. So I know like maybe not a ton of people are gonna find that useful if you're not really into formulas yet, but it is a really good update. And then when you're writing formulas, this is also helpful. They are adding now the type of property icon to the formula so that you can remember that even if it's a different name, oh, I'm referencing a relation here, I'm referencing a roll-up, I'm referencing a formula or a multi-select property. So that is helpful if you're writing formulas. Now I want to move from database properties to database automations. Database automations are primarily for the Plus plan users. I think you have very limited automations, like maybe it just connects to Slack and that's it if you're on the free plan. So this is more for Plus plan users. But they've made a lot of changes to these that I'm very happy about. One of those is specifying more conditions to trigger an action. So before it was like, if your database does this, then take this action. And it was just one and one. Now we can say, hey, if all of these conditions are true, then do the action. So it's a lot more powerful. If you work with a team, you can send notifications to people based on an action that is taken in a database. You can add or remove people from a database. You can even send emails now based on an action. So currently this only integrates with Gmail accounts. But going back to the Notion forms that we were talking about, if you have a form that people are submitting, like a contact form to you, Once you can set up an automation that once that submission comes into the database, an email automatically gets sent out to them from your Gmail account. So pretty cool, saving you a ton of time. You can also start using formulas in your automations, which I really love, and you can base actions from trigger pages, which is very exciting. And let me just give you an example so that you know like how that is actually working. So in a practical way, I have two databases. So I have a content database, which has this YouTube video as a page in there. So everything related to this YouTube video, the things that I have to do with it, etc., the description, the title, the tags, my outline for it is all in this page. I also have a task database that has my actions for this video. So it's related to it using a relation property. And so my task is film Notion updates video. Now, when I check that off, then I have to, before these automation updates, before they had the trigger pages in there, I had to go into my content database and change the status from filming to editing. Now, this automation can do it just by checking off film Notion update video. It will automatically change the status from filming to editing for me, just with one click instead of going in and manually doing it. So that's just one example. I have to dive and dig a little bit deeper into this. I'm still learning how to use it. So when I feel more confident about like different use cases and things, maybe we'll do a video about that in the future. The last set of updates I want to talk about when it comes to databases are the aesthetic updates. So first of all, if you group by a checkbox, the titles will show. Now, I guess this didn't do that before. I don't think I've ever grouped by a checkbox, but I did test it and it does work. So if you have wanted to group by a checkbox property, now you can see the titles of it. They have aligned the titles with the database items, which I love. Everything is just kind of, left aligned. It looks super nice, pretty. You can hide weekends in a calendar view if you want to. It's just a simple toggle on and off. You can toggle on and off the page icons if you didn't want to see the icons there. That's an option. They also changed the filter and sort text on the top right of the database to be icons. They did this fairly early on in the year, and I think it does make the database look a lot cleaner. They also just recently shipped that your gallery view pages and your checkboxes have slightly rounded corners, at least more than it was before. So it just adds a little bit of a softer look to your workspace. The last and probably most major aesthetic update to databases is the customize layout option. So you can do this with pages inside your database. You can't do it to pages outside a database. And it allows you to not just move properties around, but to be able to like customize how you want them to show up on the page. So on the top of the page, you'll find a customize layout text that will show up when you hover over it. You can also go to the top right of the page and click on the three dots and you'll see customize layout there. You can pin up to 4 properties across the top right underneath the title. So that just adds a little bit of a different layout look to your database page. You can also add like sets of properties to a side panel. So if there are properties that you didn't necessarily want to reference or see, you can click like more details and find them on the side. And also you can create property sections. So if you want to give different sections, like maybe you have 20 different properties in your task database and you want to organize them a little bit more into sections, you can add a section title and then you can quickly hide all those properties under that section neatly under that toggle. So I'm pretty impressed with it. The more I use it, the more I love it. Now let's move on to page and block updates. So buttons. Buttons is a block option. Love using that on a page. You can now change the color of a button. Super cool. You can also use a button to open a link as a new action. So that wasn't accessible before. So if you want a button to like even a link outside of your workspace, before, because I think you could open a page in your workspace, but now you can just have it do a normal link. With images, they have given you a little bit more power over images, so you can crop them in Notion now. You just kind of like hover over the image and the crop icon, make your adjustments and save. You can also do different formats like circle or different shapes. You can add alt text for an image, so if you're sharing a page with someone who is maybe is vision impaired or has a disability like that and can't see the pictures, then you can add alt text to it. And you can also add links to the images. When it comes to functionality, they've added a few little things. So if a page is in the trash, it will show you that little trash icon and say in trash, just in case like you accidentally deleted something that was linked to another page. So that's easier to spot. You can find and replace text. So if you've misspelled a word or used a different word than you wanted to, you can do that Command or Control F and find and replace the text. They also have this is still in beta, but a PDF importer and also a Google like Doc importer. So you can bring in a PDF and bring in a doc and it will create a new Notion page on it and not just embed the document, it will actually try to convert it into the Notion page. I did play around with this a little bit. It's not perfect. I think it works better if you just have text on the PDF. Hopefully they're gonna improve it, but yeah, it's basically just text-based without any formatting. In terms of collaboration, if you felt like if you're part of a big team and you have a lot of comments to sort through, now they give you the option to filter through comments by like type or status or person. You also can make suggested edits. This is great for people who would originally use Microsoft Word track changes, like if you were sending writing to an editor or if you were using a Google Doc and you could like turn on suggest changes. Basically, it allows someone to make suggested changes to your text and without them being permanent. When it comes to aesthetics of the page, they have really improved the look of an empty page, which I think is great because especially when you're new to Notion, those empty pages can just look a little intimidating. And at first we had like all these options of what you wanted to do to a page. Now they have moved those options to the bottom portion of the page so that you can almost ignore those if you want to and just get to typing. I think there's less friction there. They also added a table of contents to each page. So if you use subheadings, you can like jump around a little bit easier. The color picker is a slightly different layout. I like how it looks. I like the difference. You can also paste links now in your page as a mention, and that just makes it a little bit more aesthetic. It shows the little icon, and if you hover over those link mentions, you will also see a quick link preview of the page that it is going to. You can upload now custom emojis and save them. So before, you could upload an emoji to a page or a database item. You could do the custom thing, but you couldn't save it. So now you can actually upload it to the emoji section and save it so you can just like pick it the next time you want to create a page that has that option on it. So that's really cool. You can also remove the icon from a callout block if you want a cleaner look. So this is one of the things that was new to me that I had no idea you could do. And I love it because if you just want to use a callout block as like a background or like a colored background, or the default, it just has this really nice thin border around it, I think it just looks really, really nice. So it allows you to use the callout block in more scenarios. Next, let's talk about mobile updates. And I promise the end is in sight. We only have like one more thing to talk about after this section. We're getting through it. But Notion has always been a desktop first app. They have not been great on mobile, but they have made improvements this year. So that's always good to see. So one of the things you can do is if you have Notion notifications turned on your phone, you can actually take action directly from that notification. So you can tap and hold on the notification and you can reply, archive it, or mark it as read, because sometimes it can just be cumbersome to like open up the page, navigate to the comment section to leave your reply. You can also swipe pages on the sidebar to the left to add or remove them from favorites or move them to a different location. And you also have quicker access to AI. Now we're moving on to the last thing, which is just random things. I didn't know where to put these. I didn't know where to organize them, so they're under the title Random Things. They did add in an Asana importer. So if you have your projects in Asana and you want to move them over to Notion, that will make it a little bit easier so you don't have to manually do all of that. You can see under your settings and account, you can see all the devices that your account is logged into. So this is more of a safety update, just in case maybe someone got a hold of your password and someone's in your workspace from a different country that you had no idea and should not be there. you'll at least know about it. They also added webhook actions. So these let you link Notion to another platform like Zapier. So when something happens in Notion, like a completed task, then a webhook action will tell another tool, hey, you go do your thing now that this happened in Notion. And lastly, they updated the Plus plan pricing. So it used to be, if you paid it annually, $8 a month, and now it is up to $10 a month to account for all the new features that they have added throughout the year. If you're not sure whether you need to upgrade to the Plus plan, I actually did a whole video that explains the differences between Plus and free and the things that you get on the Plus plan that you might not get on the free plan. So go ahead and watch that video next if you are thinking maybe it's time to like take your Notion workspace to the next level. Well, we did it. We made it through all of those updates that Notion launched in 2024. It was a lot. They had a great year. It's always good to see a productivity software, organization software that you are invested in, that you've like moved all your stuff in, to see them making improvements, because you don't want to use something where the team is not dedicated to keeping it updated and working. Like, they really take customers' feedback into consideration. And I just love that, like, I'm on the Notion train. I'm on the Notion train for the long haul. I think they're really dedicated to their project, and I love that. What is to come in 2025? The only thing we know for sure is Notion Mail, which should be very, very interesting. Will it replace Gmail? I don't know. I'm excited to take a look at it and share it with you. But I hope in this video you learned something new, maybe something that you didn't realize Notion did actually update. You didn't know that you could do that in Notion. So you're excited to play around with some of those new options that you discovered today. And speaking of 2025, watch this video next if you haven't yet. I reveal everything that I'm using to keep my life on track for 2025. So we got I'm calling it my productivity and personal growth stack. So we've got some tech tools, a planner, a journal I'm really excited to use. So I will see you over in that video.